A B2B company paid me to audit their sales department, and in just a matter of 3 hours, we added $15 million in revenue to their bottom line. And in this video, I'll be breaking down exactly step by step what I did in this audit, the leaks that I found, and exactly what I did to fix it. So I'm Mitchell, I'm the founder of Newwell, and we're a revenue optimization company. And in other words, we help B2B companies fix broken sales and go-to-market teams by not only addressing the sales talent, but by fixing their overall revenue architecture. And what this means is if the talent or people is the driver, so to speak, then the vehicle is the system in which the talent operates within. So if you want to win a race, for example, you need to have good talent. Yes, that's part of it, but you're only as good as the vehicle. So don't do that. Along the way, I've audited hundreds of sales teams, and today I'm breaking down exactly how we found this hidden revenue and the framework any B2B leader can use to do the same, right? So if you're a founder, CEO, or CRO, you can use the exact framework to identify the constraints in your team and what to do to fix it. This client came to me, they were doing roughly around 10 million a year in revenue. They wanted more leads, more pipeline, more demos, etc. This is quite common, okay? But look, I've learned most businesses, and really people for that matter, they don't hit their goals. Most of us don't, right? That's just the truth of the human race. But it's not necessarily because they don't know how to solve the problem specifically. It's really because they don't even know what the actual problem is, right? This is probably what I find more to be true. And they're in this state of, paralysis where they may think they know the problem, right? And they're just kind of spinning their wheels trying to solve the wrong problem. Okay. Again, it's not that they don't know how to solve the problem, so they don't know what the problem is, or they're trying to solve the wrong problem. And so I did my audit process, and what I found wasn't a lead problem at all. And although they wanted more leads, look, if you're hemorrhaging revenue at conversion points in the sales process, adding more leads is like trying to fill a bucket with holes in the bottom. So don't do that. So here's what I did to find the actual problem. I did what I always do. I start off with a quantitative analysis. So this is simply the actual data, right? The actual hard numbers and objective numbers. And so this means me staring at spreadsheets, dashboards, and reports. And it sounds boring, but it's quite useful if you just do it for long enough. And this tells me that there is a problem and where the problem likely is. In other words, where to look, okay? The problem is it doesn't tell us why the problem is a problem or what we actually need to do about it. So when I looked at the metrics, I found that they had a 60% drop-off rate. For the first demo after the account executives, 60% dropped off. That is very, very substantial. That is a sales leak if I've ever seen one. It's insane. So again, if we turned up the dial on leads, that would be dumb. Okay, don't do that. So once I knew where that problem was, I knew where to look, and I knew to look deeper. So this is when I move on to part 2, which is the qualitative analysis. This is a deep dive into what's actually causing the metrics that we found. I did what you have to do. I reviewed back-to-back call recordings from the sales reps, just collected a bunch and binged them all. I watched their sales meetings as well, and I created a visual of their actual buying journey as I did this and measured the conversion rates in each step. So my observations were, number one, the sales process was quite complex, right? So they had SDRs that would do much of the qualifying, hand them off to the AEs, and the AEs would have 2 to 4 calls with them before handing off to the co-founder for a final call for legal and paperwork. This is called a co-founder stitch. And so the overall close rate on these demos were about 11%. So demo to close rate was 11%. And we only made 3 changes. And with those 3 changes, the demo to close rate jumped from 11 to 28%. Now, based on their average sale value, that was approximately $15 million in leaks that they didn't even know existed. Okay. And this audit only took me 3.5 hours to do, and we only made those 3 systematic changes. Okay, again, that added $15 million in revenue, and that's without spending a single dollar on new leads. That's without hiring any additional sales reps. In fact, we actually let a couple of the SDRs go, so the team got smaller and the revenue went up. All right, this is the power of revenue leak auditing. All right, so these are the changes that we made. I'd like to walk through step by step exactly what we changed. So number one, come to find out the AEs on that first initial demo, it was just a phone call, a 30-minute phone call. And then they went hard qualifier frame. So it was very surface level. Again, they did it over the phone. And if you heard these calls, it was just super obvious that these customers were really lacking the buy-in by the end, right? So it was very low level of interest and intent. And so the thing is on these discovery calls, you need to be able to extract the problems and desires your prospect is experiencing and create some sort of level of value alignment at the end without, pitching too hard. There's going to be a pre-pitch. So we changed this first demo to a 60-minute demo, all right, and changed their entire framework and created a brand new slide deck that wasn't necessarily made for pitching, but more so to tell the story of the company and get buy-in on what the company does, right? In other words, the thesis. So number one is understand their current situation. Number 2 is identify specific pain points or desires. Number 3 is quantify the cost of inaction. So this should be some sort of number that you quantify if they don't move forward. And lastly, it's just mapping any sort of stakeholder engagement. Like, is there any other decision makers involved in making this decision? And now, even though this may have felt like more work on the front end, this actually eliminated 2 calls on the back end. So it actually shortened the sales cycle. So we like that. All right, speed to sale. And so this meant like no more generic demos. Every initial discovery was very, discovery heavy. And that's what it's supposed to be. And then a very light personalized pre-pitch at the end. So the other issue that I found was the SDR script. Essentially, they might as well not even have a script. They were all doing something different. And overall, it was very obvious that the prospects weren't showing up very well to the initial demo. It's at least obvious why they weren't showing up on the initial demo. They were qualifying very hard and then going into pitch mode and just overdoing it. So similar to the demo process, we changed this to be more discovery based and then hyped up the demo as a consult to where they would learn more about them and share more about the industry, right? This is valuable. The value of that demo with the AE was clarity versus a sales call frame, right? So this wasn't the core problem, but it was easy to fix and it was well worth it. The main problem was the demo process with the AEs, right? Now, with each of these changes, again, demo to close rate jumped from 11 to 28%. That's $15 million in net impact in 1 year alone. Now, once that leak was fixed, this allowed us to shift our attention to lead generation. This allowed us to shift our attention to diversifying traffic, getting more leads in the door, organic strategy, content strategy, etc. So this is where you can scale and it becomes a lot more feasible since you don't have this bleeding neck in your revenue vehicle. And here's what every B2B leader needs to understand. Your biggest revenue opportunities, they're not always going to be getting more leads. It's not always more volume. It's very likely that it's about recouping what's being lost in your sales process. Lead efficiency is king. Remember that. Lead efficiency is king. Convert more of the leads you already have. So don't get me wrong, we love scaling lead flow. It's not an either or, right? If you've read Built to Last by Jim Collins, it talks about the tyranny of or. It's a both and thing. But however, in my experience, most people don't know how to actually diagnose the leaks, let alone fix it. And so that's why when it comes to auditing sales processes and maximizing lead efficiency, I'm such a fan because it's just so underutilized. So go and do this for yourself. Number 1, map your leakage points, right? Find where you're losing the prospects. Number 2, diagnose root causes, discover why they're leaving, why they're dropping off. Number 3 is engineer systematic solutions, right? So fix the process instead of just trying to fix the systems. Number 4 is measure and scale. So track improvement, prevent regression. And lastly, apply this company-wide, right? Turn this into your competitive advantage in every area of your company. Maximize lead efficiency in the sales, maximize lead efficiency on the back end, and maximize retention. Do this with your marketing department. Okay, this is the exact framework I've used with hundreds of companies. And the average result is 15 to 40% improvement in throughput within just 90 days. Now, if you want my help to audit your sales process, I'm more than happy to do it. In the description, there's a link to book an audit. I promise you, the ROI in your time is a no-brainer. And if this helped you see your sales challenges differently, please like and subscribe. That helps me with the channel. And I'll be sharing more case studies as well as in-depth lessons like this every single week. Also, let me know in the comments, what's your biggest sales conversion challenge? If you drop it in the comments, I read every single one myself, and I often will turn that into a piece of content, whether it's in my newsletter or another video. So till then, I'll see you next time.